When I was 8 years old, a simple ice cream truck song exposed the hardest truth about my family and forced me to choose between envy and effort. I stopped running when the ice cream truck came down our street, not because I did not love ice cream, but because my family could not afford it. That summer, while other children chased a song, I chased something else, and what I learned from that simple melody shaped the rest of my life. Summer did not begin with a calendar, it began with a song. The ice cream truck melody drifting down Maple Street meant freedom, joy, and childhood magic. But for my family, life was not easy. My parents worked tirelessly to make ends meet, and money was always scarce. That summer, while other children chased treats, I learned the value of hard work, resilience, and patience. I earned my first coin, started a lemonade stand with my friends, and discovered that true triumph comes not from sweetness alone, but from effort, courage, and the support of those who love you. This is a story of struggle and growth, of laughter and friendship, and the lessons that shaped the woman I became. Join me, a 70-year-old grandma, as I share a childhood memory that still inspires me today. If this story touches your heart, remember to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs a reminder that small efforts can lead to the greatest victories.
A thin, cheerful melody drifting down Maple Street, bright as sunlight, impossible to ignore. "The ice cream truck," my brother would shout. We were not rich children. My father worked at the mill until his shoulders curved forward. My mother cleaned houses and mended our clothes at night. Money had weight in our home. Every coin had purpose. Yet when that song floated through our open windows, something inside us lifted. I kept my change in a small tin under my bed, pennies from sweeping porches, nickels from returning soda bottles. My friends, Clara and James, waited at the corner, same age, same worn sneakers, same wide hope in their eyes. We raced barefoot on hot pavement, laughing, competing, living as if the world were generous. The truck moved slowly, white paint faded by years of sun, pictures of rocket pops and creamsicles along its sides. The driver, Mr. Hansen, always tipped his cap. He knew most families were counting carefully. "One each," my mother would remind me, her voice firm but kind. She sacrificed small pleasures so we could taste one. I chose orange creamsicles, cold sweetness melting too fast, sticky fingers, joy without shame. But one summer, things changed. The mill reduced hours. My father came home quieter. The tin under my bed grew lighter. The song still came, but I stopped running. Clara bought hers. James waved his dollar proudly. I stood back, pretending I was not thirsty. That was the first time I understood pride. My mother saw me at the window. She sat beside me gently. "Hard seasons teach strong roots," she said. The next morning, I asked Mrs. Carter if I could weed her garden. I washed windows, I carried groceries, I worked under a sun that burned my neck red. Clara joined me, James followed. We turned labor into competition. Who could pull the straightest row? Who could carry the heaviest bag? We laughed through blisters. The song returned again one Friday afternoon. This time, I ran. My tin felt heavy in my hand, earned, honest. I stepped to the window of the truck with steady breath. "One orange creamsicle," I said clearly. Mr. Hansen smiled. My friends cheered as if I had won a trophy. That bite tasted different. Not sweeter, stronger. Because it carried effort. Because it carried sacrifice. Standing there, sun on my face, I learned that hardship is not humiliation. It is invitation. An invitation to grow, to contribute, to rise without bitterness. Years later, when life tested me again and again, I remembered that summer song. I remembered how work changed shame into dignity. Children, listen carefully. The ice cream was never the real gift. The real gift was discovering that even in scarcity, you can build strength with your own hands. That melody still plays in my memory, and every time I hear it, I remember the little girl who chose effort over envy and found triumph in a simple orange creamsicle. That summer did not make me serious. It made me bold. Once I knew I could earn my own coins, I began to dream bigger. Clara suggested we open a lemonade stand. James said we needed a sign bright enough to stop traffic. We found scrap wood behind the mill. We painted it with leftover house paint. The letters leaned sideways. We called it art. My mother donated 3 lemons. She said that was an investment. My father built the stand sturdy enough to survive wind. We squeezed lemons until our fingers wrinkled. We argued about sugar. We tasted every batch. James made a face and declared himself quality inspector. The first customer was Mrs. Carter. She paid 10 cents and said it was the best lemonade on Maple Street. We knew she was being kind. We stood taller anyway. By afternoon, the sun burned fiercely. Sweat rolled down our backs. Our laughter did not fade. When the ice cream truck song drifted near, we looked at each other with new confidence. This time, we did not run immediately. We counted our earnings first. Carefully, proudly. Then we closed the stand together. James carried the coin jar like treasure. Clara marched ahead as if leading a parade. The truck slowed beside us. The melody sounded brighter than ever. Mr. Hansen leaned out. "Well now," he said, "young entrepreneurs today?" We nodded in unison. Each of us bought our own treat, paid in full. Exact change. We sat on the curb, legs stretched into the warm street. Sticky hands again, orange tongues, laughter bouncing between houses. But something deeper had changed. The joy was no longer borrowed, it was built. That evening, my father examined our earnings. He did not speak for a moment. Then he said quietly, "You have learned what many adults avoid." I asked him what that was. He replied, "Self-respect grows when effort meets opportunity." The weeks passed. Our lemonade improved. Our sign became straighter. Our teamwork stronger. The ice cream truck song became more than a melody. It became a reminder. A reminder that struggle can spark creativity, that friendship turns work into adventure, that small victories build large courage. And one late August afternoon, as the song echoed once more down Maple Street, I realized summer was not ending. It was preparing me for something larger ahead. Larger than lemonade stands and larger than orange creamsicles. School was only weeks away. For the first time, I was not afraid of it. Clara said she wanted to become a teacher. James announced he would own a store with unlimited candy. I declared that I would help my family stand taller. We laughed at our big promises, but something inside me was steady. The mill cut more hours that August. My father's boots looked thinner. My mother's hands looked more tired. Yet, when the ice cream truck song came, I no longer felt small. Instead, I felt ready. We expanded the lemonade stand. We added homemade cookies. James burned the first batch and blamed the oven. Clara pretended to faint from the smell. I insisted we try again. Failure became part of the fun. We improved recipes. We practiced smiling at customers. We learned how to speak clearly and say thank you. Some afternoons were slow. No customers. Hot wind, dusty road. Those were the hardest moments. Doubt whispered that it was easier to quit. But then the ice cream truck melody would float near, light and cheerful. It felt like encouragement. Not magic, not rescue, just rhythm. A reminder that effort returns in its own time. One evening, Mr. Hansen stopped his truck beside our stand. He stepped down slowly. "I have been watching you three," he said. We stood very straight. He bought lemonade for himself. He paid double. He said it was an investment in the future. That night, my father placed a hand on my shoulder. "You are learning more than business," he said. "You are learning endurance." The word sounded important. I repeated it quietly to myself. Endurance. The song came one last time before school began. We closed the stand early. We walked together down Maple Street, coin jar heavy, hearts even heavier with pride. I realized something then. Summer had not given us comfort. It had given us courage. And as the truck's melody faded into the distance, I felt ready for whatever season would come next. Because by then, I understood something most children do not learn so early. Seasons change, songs fade, but effort stays with you. The first day of school arrived with cool air and sharpened pencils. My dress was mended twice at the hem. My shoes were polished until they almost shone. Clara whispered that we looked respectable. James said respectable sounded expensive. We laughed all the way to class. Lessons felt different that year. When math problems grew difficult, I did not shrink. I remembered the sun on my back and the weight of the coin jar. When reading assignments felt long, I remembered squeezing lemons until my hands ached. Work no longer frightened me. After school, we still opened the stand on warm afternoons, not because we had to, because we wanted to. We experimented with flavors, strawberry one week, mint the next. James insisted on pickle lemonade once. We refused politely. Customers began to expect us. Some came only to watch us argue cheerfully. The ice cream truck still passed now and then, the melody softer as autumn approached. But something had shifted inside me. I no longer ran toward it. I waved confidently as it rolled by. The song had become part of my story, not the center of it. One afternoon, my mother handed me a small envelope. Inside were coins I had earned, saved carefully. She said, "You have helped this family more than you know." Her eyes were bright, not tired. That moment mattered more than any treat. Clara squeezed my hand. James nodded seriously, which was rare. We stood there on Maple Street, 3 children with scraped knees and big dreams, realizing that we were not waiting for life to improve, we were building it. The wind carried a faint echo of the ice cream truck's tune one last time that year. I closed my eyes and listened, not with longing, with gratitude, because I knew this was only the beginning of the strength I would carry into every season ahead. Years passed, but I never forgot that beginning. Middle school brought harder lessons, longer walks, more responsibility at home. The mill closed for several months one winter. Fear settled quietly into many houses on Maple Street. I was older then, old enough to understand the tension in my father's silence, old enough to see my mother stretching soup thinner. But I was also stronger. Clara suggested we keep the lemonade stand through spring. James said we could sell warm cider instead. We laughed at the idea of shivering customers, yet we tried anyway. We wore gloves with cut fingertips. We stamped our feet to stay warm. We learned that business is not always comfortable. Some days we earned little. Some days we earned nothing. Those days tested us more than success ever did. Once I told Clara perhaps it was time to stop. She looked at me and said, "Since when do you quit before the season changes?" Her words stayed with me. So we adjusted. We added simple handmade bookmarks for school children. We offered to shovel driveways. We knocked on doors politely and introduced ourselves with steady voices. Each task built more than income. It built confidence. The ice cream truck returned the following summer.
The melody felt familiar, yet I felt different. We were taller, stronger, less afraid of lean months. When I stepped up to the window that year, I bought 3 treats without counting twice, not to show off, but to celebrate growth. Mr. Hanson looked at me carefully. "You have changed," he said. I nodded. "Yes, sir, I have." We sat again on the curb, older but still laughing. James joked that we would one day own the truck. Clara said she would write books about our business empire. I said nothing for a moment, because I was thinking beyond the street. I was thinking about college, about lifting my family higher, about turning small beginnings into lasting stability. The melody played as the truck rolled away, and I felt no envy, no worry, only determination rising quietly inside me, stronger than any summer song could ever be. Determination has a quiet voice. It does not shout like children on hot pavement. It speaks steadily, like a promise kept in private. High school arrived with heavier books and longer days. I studied at the kitchen table while Mama stitched beside me. The hum of her needle became my rhythm. James worked part-time at the grocery store. He claimed he was learning management skills. Clara tutored younger students and corrected our grammar with great authority. We were still friends, still laughing, just aiming higher. The lemonade stand became a small weekend business. We added handwritten signs that read, "Hard work tastes better." Customers smiled at that. One afternoon, the ice cream truck returned with a newer coat of paint. The melody sounded brighter, almost polished. I felt a wave of memory rush through me. We closed the stand early and walked toward the familiar tune, not running now, walking with purpose. Mr. Hanson stepped down slowly. His hair had turned gray. "Young lady," he said, "you look ready for the world." I answered honestly, "I am preparing for it." That year, I applied for a scholarship. Forms spread across our table, deadlines circled in red. Fear visited again. What if effort was not enough? But I remembered weeding gardens, counting coins, standing proud with exact change. When the acceptance letter arrived, my mother held it with trembling hands. My father removed his cap and sat down quietly. James shouted so loudly the neighbors heard. Clara cried first, then pretended she had something in her eye. That evening, as if on cue, the ice cream truck melody drifted down Maple Street once more. We stood outside together. I bought one last orange creamsicle before leaving for college. The taste was familiar, sweet, cold, earned. Yet this time, the triumph was larger than the treat, because the song that once meant summer now meant progress. It meant growth carved from hardship, and as the truck rolled away slowly, I felt a new chapter opening quietly ahead of me. College was not easy. There were nights when I studied until the lamps in the library flickered. There were weeks when I counted coins again, just as I had under my childhood bed. But I was not the same little girl who once stood at the window pretending she was not thirsty. I worked in the cafeteria. I tutored younger students. I learned to ask questions without shame. Whenever doubt rose, I closed my eyes and heard that familiar melody drifting down Maple Street, not as temptation, as testimony, a reminder that sweetness tastes better when earned. Years later, I returned home with a degree in my hands and steadiness in my heart. The mill no longer frightened our family. Bills no longer ruled our dinner conversations. My parents stood taller, not because of money alone, but because their sacrifice had borne fruit. One summer evening, long after Mr. Hanson retired, a new ice cream truck passed through town. The melody was slightly different, the paint brighter. But when that tune touched the warm air, I smiled like an 8-year-old girl again. I bought a creamsicle, not because I needed it, but because I wanted to honor the journey. Children, listen carefully to this old grandmother. The song was never about ice cream. It was about learning that hardship is a teacher, not an enemy. It was about turning envy into effort. It was about friends who worked beside you and parents who sacrificed quietly. Resilience does not arrive all at once. It grows, coin by coin, choice by choice, season by season. If you hear your own summer song someday, do not only chase the sweetness, chase the strength it calls forth inside you. Because true triumph is not in what you buy, it is in who you become while earning it.